Today is Friday, March 24th, and I decided to go to the gym today instead of wrestling training. Basically, I make my decision on what to do based on what I'm inspired to do that day. So it was a really nice day today, so I decided I would definitely go to the gym. And although it's already the 24th of March, that is only the third time I've been to the gym since starting doing this. But I am pleased to say that I did go to wrestling training last Friday. That was the 17th of March, which was St. Patrick's Day. So at around 1 a.m. the night before St. Patrick's Day, I was having just a bit of an existential crisis. I was just getting a bit fed up with everyone around me, and I had some deadlines to do and stuff. And St. Patrick's Day, the sort of fun surrounding it, I was kind of not really feeling it. At about 1 a.m. I saw a message that Doug had put out saying that he was doing an 11 a.m. session with a guy called Andrew. And I just decided to message him and see if I could get involved. So when I turned up to the session, I continued the trend of just getting into the ring, doing rolls, doing a couple of bumps, just to at least convince myself that I'm more comfortable in the ring. We went into the British International, and I think we ran it 3 times. And after the 3rd time, I had pretty much an asthma attack. Now for me, asthma is sort of a condition where my chest tightens up and my breath goes into my mouth rather than going all the way into my lungs. So funnily enough, whenever you're really concentrating on a sequence of moves, a sequence of athletic moves, it might sound silly to people who don't suffer from asthma, but I genuinely forget to breathe. So I'm doing all this running and my legs are tiring and my body's tiring, but the breath is only going into my mouth. And that's the point where my chest seizes up and the breath just won't go into my lungs. So fortunately, Doug was sympathetic. I think he understood the problem with asthma himself. So we continued to do a few sequences like that, and then adding in the jumping out of the ring with the sunset flip in, and it went fine. And my athletic side seems to come out in things like that. Then we went on to something that I haven't done in either the group sessions or any of the private sessions that I've had, and that was striking. So we did things like gut kick, club on the back, uppercut, and forearm, and it was far and away the most physical thing I have done in years, probably in my life. When Douglas was demonstrating the club on the back to Andrew, he was using me, and eventually they were both using me, just cracking down across the back of my shoulders. The forearm to the trap, just there. That was really painful as well. We did a punch to the stomach, which was also just made a good sound but didn't hurt that much. And then we went taps off in order to demonstrate the sound that these strikes are meant to make. At which point Douglas was talking about, different strikes, and he mentioned the chop. So somehow it led to me never having been chopped, and he said that usually the adrenaline makes it not hurt as much, but because I would have been there and zero adrenaline, very cold, it was really, really going to hurt. And it was unlike any pain I've ever felt before. At one point he also demonstrated a gut kick to someone who's on their stomach. I was used to demonstrate that, and I made the fatal error of holding my breath. So he kicked the breath out of me, which is just, if you've ever been winded, it's not a nice feeling at all. So we took what we learnt and we went into 1 minute of heat, as he put it, where each of us would act like the heel and sort of use strikes to beat down the other. And I wasn't very good at it. I tried to do way too much. I kept picking him off the ground. I did more that Douglas critiqued than ever before. He had more criticisms than he's ever had for anything else. Andrew was far better at it. He's a far better actor. He can get out of his shell a lot easier than I can, but that also comes down to the fact that I think he's done more recently as well. So I just had a few thoughts coming out of this session, and one is to do with Andrew. And it's weird because since I was a kid, I've never really been overly competitive, because I remember I was a shitty little kid like the rest of them. I would cry whenever I didn't get what I wanted. I would cry when I was essentially second best. And I learned pretty quickly that that's a shitty thing to do, and it's a shitty way to be really competitive and really self-centered and up yourself. That's how I viewed it. I remember when I was like 9 or 10 and me and my friend were playing Lord of the Rings at the back, and he would want to be Aragorn, and I'd be like, that's fine, I'll be Legolas, or fuck it, I'll be Gimli. So I learnt from a very early age what pettiness is, and it sort of has translated all the way into my life, where if I'm doing all right, I don't try particularly hard. And you could criticize and say, oh, you're one of these people who thinks it's not cool to try, and in some cases yes, but I think really what it comes down to is I just have a very deep rooted confidence, I suppose. I definitely don't feel like that a lot of the time, but there are some things in life where I'm just like, I'm going to be fine. I don't need to prove that I'm better than anybody else. I know my own worth. So I've gotten through university as basically an average student. If I'd have pushed myself, I could have been better, but I don't see the rewards from doing that, other than so that you can tell people that you're better than them. So this has always been my mindset going into wrestling. I remember turning up to the first group sessions, and I was looking around, and these guys didn't look particularly athletic. They didn't look particularly strong or anything. But then when they got in the ring, they completely embarrassed me. Now, yes, that was down to my naivety, thinking that it all came down to strength and athleticism, which it absolutely doesn't. It comes down to experience and knowing what you're doing. But anyway, I was a bit taken aback, and my immediate response was to just sort of step away from it, because to compete with these guys, I just didn't think it was going to make me feel very good. So going into, I think, my first private session, I met Andrew, and he's a youngish guy. I think he's 20, but importantly, he was just starting as well. So we were at the same level in terms of experience, which to me meant we were starting from the same position. And I remember the first session that we had together, there was some athletic stuff involved with kick-ups out of the ring and sunset flips and some sort of jump-in bulldog thing. And Mikey and Douglas were there, and they both were, clapping me and congratulating me, whereas they were having to give Andrew a few hints and tips. And it was honestly the first time since I was a kid that I walked out feeling genuinely smug for being better than somebody. And it was a weird feeling, because I felt good about it, but then I thought about it and I was like, I have done absolutely nothing. Why was I so self-congratulatory? And I realized that that's just what competitiveness is. So wrestling, and specifically Andrew, have actually lit this competitive fire underneath me. And it's completely friendly, because he's a nice guy, we get on well, and I want him to do well as well. But I just thought it was very cool that finally I was dealing with somebody who I wanted to be better than, and he probably wants to be better than me as well. So there were some things in that session he was definitely better than me at, and fewer that I was better than him at. But it makes me want to go back to sessions with him. So hopefully that will continue